Change begins from within. As easy as it is to look outside of ourselves and want the world to change, the truth is, it never will if we remain the same. This podcast was created for changemakers like you who want more love and connection in your community. Today, you are going to hear stories that will inspire you and also challenge you to be the change. We are going to go deep, my friend. So take a deep breath and settle in. My name is Emilia Tamburini. Welcome to the Circle of Change. Welcome, friend. I'm delighted to be with you today. Thank you so much for being here. This episode is guided by spirit, and you're going to have a chance to feel and hear a beautiful soul share what is possible when we look closely at what we are letting guide us and make empowering decisions about our guiding stars. This is a cautious reminder to all of us to pay attention to what it is we are focusing on and what we're using to guide our decisions and our perspectives. The introductory poem reminded me of Viktor Frankl because I'm reading a series of his lectures right now. Viktor was a Holocaust survivor who is well known for his book, Man's Search for Meaning. In this book, he speaks to his journey in concentration camps during the Holocaust, where finding and tapping into the meaning of everything, the meaning of his life and his purpose in that environment was what helped him and many others live through these horrors. He understood that in an environment where there is immense powerlessness, what no one could remove from him is his power of his choice to find meaning. I think that perspective is so important for humanity in this moment where there is so much uncertainty and powerlessness all around. I know that I personally can fall prey to my own mind and forget that regardless of what is going on around me, I always have the choice on how to frame my life experiences and what guides my actions. Whose values am I imposing on myself? Old colonial values or values that are deeply aligned with my soul? I'm excited about this conversation in that context because it gives us a path forward that we are fully in control of, regardless of our personal circumstances. I am owning that I am a white, cisgendered, able-bodied woman saying these words, and these words have supported me deeply in my own life journey through cancer, through painful relationship breakups, and healing from trauma. And I am not going to speak on behalf of other people's experiences. What I do want and hope for this episode is that regardless of what your life experiences, that you find something for yourself that feels empowering in this conversation. Our guide and our guest today is Susan Burrell. She is a lifelong spiritual quester, a feisty Scorpio, and a former actress who has navigated life by learning how to listen within to that divine urge, capital D, that keeps pointing her in the direction of her life's purpose, even when she can't see the road. She's a guide in the crossroads of life with a master's degree in consciousness. And she has been counseling and supporting people in transforming from the inside out for over 25 years. Her methods are proven because she has lived this journey to empowerment. She has a book, she has a podcast, she has meditations, and all of the links are in our show notes. So please go check this out. This soul is tuned in, tapped in, and has a lot of amazing wisdom to share to support us in this transition we find ourselves in globally. At the very end of this episode, I come back to pull out some of the nuggets so that you can apply them in your own life if you so choose. So enjoy this light-filled conversation, Changemaker. Susan, welcome to the Circle of Change.
Oh, I'm so excited. And I love the title of this show, The Circle of Change, because I always, I didn't plan this. I got circles on me. I didn't plan this, but that's always my vision is a circle of women who get to speak. So I so love the title of your show. So thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, and it really is a circle. My vision is that the listener who's with us here today, we are in circle together, and this is a conversation and an experience. So you and I are new to each other. This is our very first conversation, and I love that. Based on what I've seen, I've been able to watch some of your videos and listen to your podcast, and I'm excited to see what comes out of you today and into our circle. I know that I have never had a conversation such as this, the one that we are going to have, and I know that it is going to be supportive both for me and the listener with us today. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Already it's my pleasure. So hey.
So, as we begin, I like to really settle into this present moment because this really is where life happens. So, I invite you, Susan, and our listener to close your eyes if you want to and if you are able to, and just take a deep belly breath in, really connecting to that beautiful flow going in and out of your beautiful body. And feel free to take a few more breaths, really getting present here in this circle, opening yourself up to what it is you came here to receive. I'm going to read a poem to kick us off. Feel free to keep your eyes closed. The poem is by Aaron Hansen. There is freedom waiting for you on the breezes of the sky. And you ask, what if I fall? Oh, but darling, what if you fly? It's a beautiful, short, and I feel profound words from Aaron. So thanks, Aaron. Does anything come up for you when you hear those words, Susan?
Well, I got chills, and I'm reminded that I think I just read that poem last week. I know I wrote it down somewhere. It's beautiful because, oh my God, I just have chills everywhere. Because in my belief system that I work daily to keep focused on the idea of freedom. In fact, it's part of my branding. It's actually freedom was one of the words I focused on when I was going through a really contentious divorce. I wanted to be free, happy, and love myself more than I ever had. So freedom is a huge keyword for me. And I think it's necessary for so many people to find their own inner freedom, because really it's about your inner guidance, your inner work, and therefore finding freedom to be just to be who you are, right? And so many of us may not have had good modeling to trust ourselves and be who we are until we get to a ripe old age of something. So yeah, I have my son's engaged, and his fiance is lovely. We're in love with each other, and I know she won't mind me saying this, but she just turned 30, and they're going to get married in her 30th year. And I keep telling her that is just profound because she's now free, right? She gets to choose who she is and choose who she's going to spend her life with. She's at so many choice for freedom, for happiness, for joy and love. And she's completely aware of it. I just hope that other people recognize that freedom, and I live in the United States, is a choice. It's always a choice. And when you go deep into your inner awareness, then that choice can move mountains as choosing to be free of whatever the social media stuff is or whatever the marketing crap is that everybody gets exposed to, free from social political memes. I just really believe in the individual taking self-responsibility, and that includes choosing to be free. And then you can fly, like Aaron said, then you can
Exactly.
fly.
It's so true. What really struck me, I love everything you've just shared and fully support it. And what struck me in Aaron's words is that choice. So often we are focused on the negative, the fear, what can go wrong, and switching that question to, yeah, and what if you fly? What are the possibilities that are here for you? And really grounding ourselves in that vision, that energy. Whoa, that's when we change the world. And I know you know that through your work and all that you do in this world.
Last year, I took off. I mean, I put a strong halt on my business. The only thing I did was podcasting. And I called a circle of women to focus on supporting me in my inner healing because I knew I was in my own way. And what was going to be a month of daily prayer work that this group agreed to, with me in the center of the circle, which was a big ask for me. I don't ask for things, but so I've grown up enough to go, I need to ask for more support then. What it's now been an ongoing circle, and we connect non-locally. We connect in spirit, in energy, once a week. And now everyone that stands on the circle, I always see us holding hands and opening our hearts to each other and opening our heart to infinite source energy, so that whatever the intention is, we can be fulfilled in that intention. So this last week, I came across what you're saying about focusing on positive as opposed to negative. What if you could fly? I came across a reading. I can't remember where it was, but it was talking about, instead of focusing on your deficit. So, like in my case, one of the reasons why I called the circle is I'm a type 1 diabetic of 30 years, insulin dependent from the get go. And I decided, you know what? I want to heal my body, whatever that means, whatever that looks like. So I, for a year, have been focusing on my deficits. Do you see that? I was like, wow, well, my eyes are, well, the blah, 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 and everybody please pray with me, for me, blah, 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 about the thing that I say I don't want, except that it maintains itself because that's what I'm focusing on. And this thing I read talked about focusing. What if we just focus on knowing that we are already fulfilled, that we are already content, that we are already happy, that we are already loved, and focus on that, not the thing you don't want, which everybody talks about. Don't focus on what you don't want. It's how we've all been taught, at least in my realm, in order to improve, to get ahead, to achieve, you got to focus on the squeaky wheel, right? The one thing you don't want, as opposed to focusing on, look at all we've done. Look at how far I've come. Look at how happy I am now because I did all those things. So focusing on feeling fulfilled, and it's changed. And this is what I've been teaching this stuff for over 30 years, right? So you always have to be reminded of the thing that you forget when you get caught up in external mishigosh, the external stuff. So my choice right now is to focus on where I feel fulfilled. And the fulfillment is in every area. There is no place where God is not, right? Where spirit is not. There is no, the infinite, indescribable essence and energy is in every living particle, not just everything, every particle, every cell. So it's not like, well, I'm fulfilled in my job, but I'm not fulfilled in my, no, fulfilled, full of spirit, full of energy, full of source, so that there is no place where spirit cannot flow in, through, and around me. Yeah, try that one on.
Yeah. Ah, oh my gosh. What a powerful beginning to this circle.
Oh,
I could just, I have felt my vibration just rise as you've been sharing your words. And I want to help the listener connect with you, and not that they're not already connecting with you.
yeah.
But there's a couple things that strike me about your bio. First is that you have a master's degree in consciousness, which blows my mind and makes me want to go back to school. And secondly, that you call yourself a guide in the crossroads of life. Everything about that is intriguing to me. So obviously you have this deep connection to divine, the creator, God, spirit. Can you tell us a little bit about your life journey and how did you be this way, who you are today?
there was a lot of there was a lot of potholes and abysses that I had to cross over, and yeah, and muck and mud and slogging. I have been a spiritual quester all my life. I started probably investigating spiritual philosophies and ideologies, metaphysics, when I was about 17. So and now I'm 60 something. I just was constantly attracted to that and I wanted to know more. And so I studied in my 20s. I studied with a couple of shamans. I studied with a medicine woman. I started adding to my toolbox and investigating, like I said, other spiritual philosophies. And then in my 30s, my early 30s is when I became diabetic. I'd been sick for a year. No regular doctor could put their finger on what was wrong until I was about 32 hours from death, is what the doctor said. I was going into coma and I had no idea. I had lost everything. I had lost my weight. I had lost muscle mass. I was like skin and bones. And when I look at pictures, I'm like, how did nobody around me, but when you're living with somebody who's ill, you don't see the drastic change until it's almost too late. So coming out of that, I knew I had to heal. I needed to heal from the inside out. And so I really dove into my spiritual connection. And I took 3 weeks staying with my folks. I was married at the time, but I took 3 weeks off once I got out of hospital and stayed with my parents who lived at the time in a beautiful little town in Central California on the ocean called Cambria. And I would walk the beaches, I would hike the trails, I would sit and meditate on the rocks right at the ocean's edge. And the information I received and the healing modalities, I guess, that I received during that time was profound. So that just added to. And then while I was trying to live my life and have a job, a paying job, and in a career of something, the spiritual calling just kept pulling me. And I finally committed to myself and the calling, took classes to become a spiritual practitioner. And then eventually I got my master's in consciousness, that's such a hoot to me, a master's in consciousness, really, because it takes eons of lifetimes to master consciousness. And everybody, you don't really master it, but you get to learn. That's what was exciting for me. And so I got to study quantum physics, psychology, philosophy, world religions. It was 4 intense years that also changed me up from the inside out. So, and then when I went into divorce after 28 years, it was again another time for me to heal. So I keep going back to these. Okay, I got to sit down and heal again. Oh, I got to, So it's part of what I wrote about in my book, Live an Empowered Life: A 30-Day Journey, because it's actually the journey I underwent while I was going through divorce, because I knew I wanted to come out free and happy and loving myself more than I ever have. So I did everything. I pulled everything out of my spiritual toolbox and did that. I would sit down and do a guided meditation with myself. I get information that comes in, not that I'm a channel. So it's easy for me to lead guided meditations. So I do that for myself. When something shows up that doesn't look right or feel right, I sit down and we investigate. It's during meditation of show me, or, there's so many questions you can ask in meditation of your spirit guides or your angels. I started working with angels last year. It was very, very cool. So I feel so supported on so many dimensions.
Yeah, one thing that struck me when you said masters of consciousness, and yes, of course, it's a maybe lifetimes long journey. What a difference that is between a doctor of philosophy, which for me, like that's the PhD. To me, that is like, oh, that brings you right into your head, right? Where a master's of consciousness, you can feel the difference in that, the language alone, in that it's an experience and it's beyond the brain.
It is. And that is my practice, is to drop into my heart where I really feel spiritual wisdom of the ages, ancient wisdom resides in the heart center, not the head. So when I entered into that program, I wanted to really get out of my head. Because of my marriage, I became a control freak. I probably was that before, but it got even worse. And so I knew it's that's all being in your head. The what if, how do I fix it? What do I change? How can I change? Duh, 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 duh. And I knew that it wasn't serving me. It's part of what made me sick. So dropping into my heart and really living from that space of intuition and listening, deep listening to myself, which is listening to my higher self that comes in, right? The spiritual information that drops in. And I know lots of people right now are receiving what we call downloads, of coding that you can't even explain, information that drops in, and all of a sudden you know something you didn't know 5 minutes ago. That kind of stuff is happening to so many people that are practicing being consciously aware, not just awake. Because that awake sounds like you just wake up one day. No, 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 no. In order to expand consciousness, yours in particularly, it's about being aware daily. Where am I not being consciously focused? Where do I need to open up more to receive information or receive love or receive money? Where do I need to be more me?
I love that. So, one of the areas that you talk about is this moral compass, and I'm sensing that perhaps that's involved in everything that you're speaking of now. Could you share with us what is a moral compass and how that's used or why it's important?
Okay, so there's a backstory to this. The backstory is when I was in yet another lawyer's office because of my ex husband doing mishigash stuff. I had chosen a woman this time, and she walked me into her partner's office, and well, let's just say he wasn't awake. And on his wall, there was this compass, and me being fully me now, I ask questions and I listen intuitively to what is really not being said. So I asked him about the compass. I said, wow. He goes, yeah, that's my compass, and there was like 8 points to it. It was really beautiful painting of a compass. And he said, but, there's only 2 points I really focus on. I was like, oh, north and south. He said, no, right and wrong. And I went, uh-oh. And he thought that was brilliant. You're either right or you're wrong. And I was like, huh, look at that. Look at all the different areas of gray in between there, or blue, whatever color you like to just have shades of. So I went, me being me, I went home and I was like, compass, moral compass. What? He needs to have a moral compass, not a right and wrong. I just felt like he was doing a disservice to his clients. Either we win or you lose. It's like, whoa. So I sat down and asked again, because I investigate within myself, what's my moral compass? How many points are there on there? And so it often feels to me, well, I printed out a picture of a compass and there was 8 points. And I just asked, so what do I want this compass to be? Meaning, you use a compass to find your way. So for me, the points on the compass are actually foundational. So you can stand on that foundation for your life if you follow your moral compass. So like for me, the first thing that showed up is being in integrity. I don't like liars. I really attempt not to lie, even a white lie. It's not right. And having integrity is about speaking truth to yourself and to authorities, right? Not withholding, because that's still kind of a lie. Compassion is on my compass. Creativity is on my compass. Love, freedom is on my compass. Joy. It's a really fun exercise to ask your inner wisdom, what would I put on my moral compass? What is really important to me? And I use it with clients because a lot of women that I work with are going through divorce or just came out of divorce. They're confused. They don't understand. That's why I talk about the crossroads in life. Women that are empty nesters, all of a sudden now they have all this freedom, but what do they do with it? Because, oh my gosh, I wake up and I don't even know who I am because I was so busy raising kids and being a mother or a wife or, so I use it with my clients to help them find what their foundation is now. And I think that the points on anybody's moral compass can change as they grow, because things that were important to someone in their 20s, when you get to your 40s, you recognize, wow, that wasn't really that. I was focusing on that, having that be one of my principles I stand on. Yeah, so that's where the moral compass came from, and it's something that I use for myself, and it has helped many of my clients to refocus, going back to focusing on feeling fulfilled as opposed to your deficit. It helps them to go, okay, because when they get into their story, they go down the rabbit hole of their story, and we all have stories, reminding them that they have these pillars, foundational pillars that they chose, like loving themselves. Many women are like, I don't know how to love myself. I don't even like myself. Well, that's because you were being told that you were worthless. So let's find where your value is. And it tends to be these qualities, right?
I love it. I love how it's individualized and it's a conscious exercise for the client or person you're working with to really tap into that inner wisdom. It's a beautiful message of this is, instead of handing them a compass, being like, well, you need compassion and integrity. And it's like, no, what is this for you? What is your soul saying?
It's fascinating what people come up with, because I think it should be all those things, right? But other people come up with having clarity as part of they want to have clarity. They want that to be, or they want to feel brave. They want that to be, it's interesting because we're all unique, individual, divine sparks of light, of spirit. No two people are exactly the same. Truth. And yet we all have that inner divine wisdom. And so to get to know what your divine wisdom is, and then use it as your foundation of how you live your life is vitally important, especially in the world that we live in right now.
I want to talk a little bit more about how one would actually apply this in their life. But before we get there, I'm curious about your thoughts on what gets in the way of following your moral compass. Because I imagine that just because you create this, it doesn't mean that you're manifesting it and following it 100% all of the time, as because we're humans. So I'm curious what your perspective is in terms of what is it that pulls us sort of into the darkness.
There's a few things. For me, what I've noticed is that there's externals that are always getting in our way. The externals are the fear pandemic, the news, the war happening wherever you live on the other side of the planet, doesn't matter. Those things the global warming, all those are external distractions that keep us from really being connected to source within us. And the other thing is the stories that we run, the belief systems that underline these stories. Like when I was going through divorce, I recognized I didn't know myself. I didn't even love myself or respect myself. And I was like, holy moly, how did I get here? Well, some of that was kind of programmed into me as a small child, like before the age of 3. Psychologists say it's by the age of 6 your personality is formed, and the family of origin has done whatever helpful or non-helpful things they're going to do to you and for you, right? So some of it is running these stories. And so we keep ourselves really busy up in the head by telling the story. I would imagine for anybody listening, sometimes when your alarm clock goes off, or in my case, my dog wakes me up, immediately if I'm not consciously aware again, that phrase of choosing how I'm going to focus my day, my stories start running. Oh my God, I got to do this. And then he said that, and she did this, and I got to go, blah, blah, blah. So it's about becoming consciously aware of the stories we run, because that's what holds us back. It's not necessarily what someone did to you, it's how you receive it and the choices you make when you act on that something, right? when I was going through divorce, I suddenly found myself at a dinner party with all women who have been divorced. And after a few bottles of wine, I mean, well, not even after, at the very beginning, they just did the whole song and dance about how he done me wrong. And some of these women had been divorced for 18, 20 years, and then they were still running the story about their ex-husband. I was like, holy moly, I still have my story a little, but it's shrunk quite a bit because I didn't want to come out of divorce feeling embittered. I wanted to come out free and happy and full of love, not necessarily towards my ex-husband, but for myself to really, really own me again and call, my body, call my energy back, so I can focus and then be a more positive, loving, kind, compassionate person. So the stories we run on our head are, I think, the biggest thing that hold us back because it's all up here and we believe that our story is true. It goes back to the moral compass thing. There's either right or there's wrong. Well, there isn't. Even in our stories about how someone did us wrong, there are so many shades of colors that need to be investigated and then the negative stuff needs to be released. So in my book, Live an Empowered Life, it's a workbook. So the beginning, you've got to write your story out, get the garbage out of your head, and not so you can review it and go and then take it to a friend. See, here's my story. See what he did to me. No, 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 no. It's you write it out. You close the book. Once you've cleared enough of the garbage, then you can face what you're really afraid of. Because most shame, anger, guilt is a cover for fear. And I think the biggest fear we all have is that we're not lovable or valuable. And that's just a lot of hooey, but it takes conscious awareness and effort and investigation within yourself to excavate what is blocking you, to excavate the fear that might be holding you back because that's not our sole purpose here. We all come in with a soul purpose that we've co-created. The purpose in any lifetime on planet Earth. I don't know about the other planets. I think I've been there, but I don't know. But on planet Earth, it is to grow and evolve. So when we come up against hard lessons, like in my case, my contentious divorce, and after 28 years of marriage, that's been my biggest lesson. And the biggest lesson underneath all of that is to love anyway. And it's not even to forgive, although that has to be part of the process, forgiving myself, but it's to love in spite of the trauma, the drama, in spite of the challenges, to continue to love more, love myself. And then that, as I love myself, I know absolutely it radiates out. And so that love, which activates light, that love heals anybody that you come in contact with. Strangers, you don't even have to do anything but be that radiant light of love, and other people leave your sphere of influence, if you will, feeling better without even having maybe saying a word, just a smile, just a look. Yeah. So facing the fears is part of what we're here to learn and to love more, to love anyway. Feels like a tall order sometimes.
Yeah, I want to dive into that a little bit more. And then I've got one more question for you. But I definitely resonate with what you're sharing in that my own work, when I bring community together in circle, many folks do show up with that protective gear on, like they're ready to fight, they're ready to go into the right and wrong moral compass. And when I am faced with that and respond with love, with compassion, with simply listening, it's amazing to see how the person instantly transforms, because I think we are mostly running around the earth ready to protect ourselves, whether that is fighting back or disengaging or the various ways in which we do that. And so when we are responded to with something that is a little bit different, like love, that's part of a deconditioning process. And so I know for me, I'm always saying, it's not our fault that we show up this way. And circling back to the poem and to the beginning, it's a choice. It's a choice. So how can you give us an example of how you use your moral compass to support you in making the choice of love every day?
So my current practice in daily journaling, again, to get the garbage out, if there's something there, which also helps to set intentions for myself so I always often come up with affirmations during that time. And then I drop into meditation, and the meditation, grounding myself here on earth, because oftentimes when people meditate, they actually can leave their bodies and they don't realize it. And that's not a scary thing. That's a good thing. But then I open up this last year and a half, I've been focusing on allowing a high frequency of love to flow in through the top of my chakra, well, there's plenty of chakras up above there, but just to flow in and really attempt to feel that love entering all the cells of my body, entering my bloodstream, entering the physical body. And then I feel it moving into the emotional body, which helps to clear stuck emotions. And then I feel it moving into the mental body where stories run, and using that high frequency of love, which is what the I am presence is. It's all love. It's just a frequency of love. Using that to clarify, if you will, to kind of clean out. And that's actually my daily practice now, is just to open to a high frequency of love and allow it to clear whatever known or unknown, transmute it through all dimensions, space and time, so that I can be present right now as Susan on planet Earth and be that light leader that I am. And there's many of us. You are one. You are definitely one. And the thing about calling in a circle, which is what I just love, besides it's an expression of the divine feminine, is in my experience, everybody sees everybody if you're on a circle. And then everybody has the opportunity to listen, to simply listen. And so many of us don't get that on a regular basis. We're not being seen or we're not being heard. The circle is powerful in that way. It supports everyone on the circle in healing, like you mentioned. And the healing doesn't just happen to the one person who's being seen and heard. It happens to everyone on the circle because we're connected, right? When you're in a circle, you're connected. There's no end point. There's no beginning and there's no end. And hence, that's often a descriptor for spirit. There's no beginning and there's no end. It's a continual renewal and flow and all of that.
Yeah, I agree. And it has been my experience too, that the circle really brings home for me those principles of we are all knowledge keepers. We are all responsible. We're all leaders, in other words, and we are all interconnected. And it happens just by holding that space with intention. So I am really touched and moved by you calling in a circle for yourself. I've been reflecting on that in my own practice, in that I host circles. That is what I do outside of this podcast. And I'm on that mission, that journey of receiving and calling in that support for myself. So what a profound gift that you gave yourself, but also the others that joined you in that circle.
I called in for when you do, because you are going to. I called in very well practiced, deeply connected spiritual healers that I know. And I asked these, and it's a circle of women. And I asked these women, and every single one said yes. And they still say yes. That, they are getting such benefit personally, all of us.
Beautiful. Thanks for that nugget. That's such a gift for me. So, Susan, to end this beautiful exchange, I want to leave you with one question, which is, what does being the change mean to you? And that's the question we end on, in that's what really we're up to here in the Circle of Change, is supporting people to step into being the change. And everyone thinks about that in their own way, or really has an understanding of what that is. So what's your understanding of what being the change is?
Well, as soon as you asked that question, I got another jolt of energy that just went electrical energy. So, something I've always contemplated to be the change, right? For me, it's about calling people to be light leaders. These are the new leaders on the planet that hopefully will become leaders of governments and cities and environmental healing, and but there's so many light leaders that haven't stood in their own power. So at the beginning of the lockdown, in meditation, I asked what's mine to do, and I heard loudly, activate the light, activate light leaders. So that's what I do. That's why I just yammer on and hopefully somebody activates.
Well, I have been activated by this conversation, and I know I'm not the only one. So it's been such a joy connecting with you in this way. Your mission, the work that you're up to in the world, it truly speaks to my soul. And I found this conversation healing, and I'm looking forward to re-listening to it as I edit and bring it out there, because I know there's so much more wisdom in there to absorb. Before I fully close out, is there anything else that you want to share right now? Whether it's about an upcoming program, this is launching in October, the work that you do, how can people connect with you? We'll have all your information in our show notes, of course.
Everybody can just go to my website, susanburrell.com. You can find my podcasts, Empowering Chats with Susan Burrell. You can find my book. The book is, again, linked to my website. So, because I really feel that people need to have someone hold their hand, because I do. So it's interactive. I also have guided meditations on the Insight Timer app. And if you go through the website, you can go directly to those guided meditations. And I'm still in a place of self-reflection. So I'm not teaching right now. I don't know that I will, maybe next year, but not the rest of this year. So that's how you find out more about me.
Beautiful. Oh, I'm so excited you're on Insight Timer. So I get to bring you into my day now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh gosh, you're doing the big work of helping us to love ourselves more fully. And personally, I believe that is the solution to healing the divides in our world, and creating this world that we all want to live in, of safety and love and belonging. So my hands are raised to you. Thank you so much, Susan, for the work that you're up to and for sharing your wisdom here today.
It's been my honor. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Changemaker. As promised, I'm coming back in to sum up a few juicy nuggets that landed in this episode for me. Susan shares about a healing circle that she called for herself. And it's something that I'm deeply curious about in terms of its power to heal our communities and ourselves. I'm curious to know what you think of that concept, and if it's something that you're going to call for yourself. Since recording this, I have gotten 3 girlfriends on board to activate these circles for ourselves, and I'm excited to report back to you on how that goes. There are a few questions that Susan drops that I want to draw attention to here to support you in discovering your own moral compass for yourself. So the first is, what are your unique values and virtues that are guiding you to your own freedom, or that you want to guide you to your own freedom? So when you do this exercise, that creates your compass. Now, check in to see what of those values feels unreachable to you, and tap into the stories you're telling yourself. Is there shame? Is there blame? What is the fear that is present? And find a way to get that out of your system. Susan uses meditation and journaling and calling on support as ways to support her. So the last question is, what are the practices that can support you? What are your ways of clearing out all the gunk so that you can truly let your moral compass guide you in your life? Please check out Susan's book, Live Your Empowered Life, a 30-day journey. and her podcast called Empowering Chats with Susan Burrell. Changemaker, I love having you here. I love being with you. Please do not forget to rate and leave us a review on this podcast. It really helps us get the word out and let other people know what this experience is like. We'd also love your support. So please head to humconsulting.ca/donate, where you can learn how to become a Circle of Change supporter. Your contributions help a ton to help us keep this podcast accessible and also support all the folks that are working to pull this project together. It truly does take a village. Thanks again. I will see you here next week when we have our more intimate circle gathering. I'm now passing the talking piece to you. If you feel called to put your voice in the circle, please head to humconsulting.ca/podcast and share your story there. I cannot wait to hear what has come up for you as you have listened to what has been shared here today. I wish you love and joy beyond your wildest imagination. Thank you so much for being here in the Circle of Change. I also want to express my gratitude to the following peeps. Circle of Change is recorded on Lekwungen territories, and I am so grateful to live on this land. Our opening and closing music was created by the talented E-Roll Beats. You can find his creations at erollbeats.com. And special thanks to my coach, Mary Chan of Organized Sound Productions, for bringing this podcast to life. Until next time, ciao.